Richard Cohen, and I've been a fan of the DuBois Institute and come to many of these things, and it's the first time
Pull up the mic.
I have been angry enough to get up and talk because this is so emotional to me. I think I've got kids that have reaped all the benefits of wealth and great educations, and I have a 14-year-old who's on the autistic spectrum, and seeing him flourish with, you know, a $58,000 tuition at a private school. But one of the things I've done is there are programs in New York City, the one I'm talking about is Pencil, where they match up people from the business community to partner with principals. And I have adopted a school district actually in Brooklyn that deals with the learning disabled kids. And I have seen more low-hanging fruit of things that can be done. You know, examples like in New York City, you have an allowance for books, and the principals have the ability to change some of their budget items, but if you don't use your budget for books, it goes back to the district. These are learning disabled kids who need computers and interactive devices. There are schools where they're shoved in the basement and just through. I think that the key here is I am making a huge difference with this school because it's coming from the bottom up. I am knocking on doors and I am getting things done. You want to change the system, you're not going to change it from the top. You've got to change it from the grassroots and the up, and you've got to get people involved who do care and have the system listen to them from a ground-up grassroots basis.
Thank I need to go to the other side of the room before I get to Lucy Hackney. Etienne Legrand.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. As Charlene said, I'm Etienne Legrand, and I run the W.E.B. Du Bois Society in Atlanta, small W.E.B. Du Bois Society compared to my dear friend Skip, but in any event, we are working there really hard on a piece of the puzzle that we think is really important, in addition to everything that everyone addressed thus far, and it's really simply, how do we get students to want to learn? And when we think about that, a piece that I think is important to add, along with everything that everyone's talking about, which I couldn't agree more with, is the notion that where we are today, given the confluence of poverty and other issues, is that if you closed your eyes and just listen to what we say and open them and look at what we do, it is in total contradiction to what we're saying. Skip mentioned, as he opened up, this notion that athletics and entertainment just predominates the popular culture. And that obviously has a serious implication for what people think about as important and what drives them to therefore achieve and motivates them to want to achieve, along with obviously the money that goes along with that. So my question is really, as we incorporate all of those pieces in there, we think about the public policies that underlie some of this, part of the problem is, as I think Angel said, you know, we need a new model, and we need to begin to think about how we add these changes. But to your point about what's going on with the Department of Education and other sources, there's really a lack of innovation in education. There is no new money for different ideas. There's no money hardly for things that we know that works. We are looking for silver bullets, so I think that mindset around how we solve the problem has to be drastically different.
Thank you. Let me take the question from Lucy Hackney.
Well, I wanted to say something terrific about this place that you are all here with this island. And the schools are amazing here. Public education here in Martha's Vineyard is terrific. And one of the reasons it happens is because we have really good health care, we have really good early childhood, and we have rich people from people who come in the summer, so we have enough money. So thank you very much.
Okay, let me just say very, very quickly, we have about 5 or 6 more minutes, and so again, if I could, I'd like to just end the questions with the gentleman in the green shirt. So I would like to get the next 4 people in the next 2.5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Very quickly, I am Roderick Woodruff, co-founder of the Urban Video Game Academy, a STEM after-school program in Baltimore and Washington, D.C., primarily working with charter schools in those areas. I'd just like to ask, I guess, Dr. Harris, is there any quantitative data with respect to values, family values, and achievement? And to Dr. Comer, is there anything qualitative on your side with respect to value systems in parental units, in homes, that can affect achievement of students?
Thank you.
Yes, there is data on values, and essentially, I find that most parents value a good future for their children. There's no such thing as a parent who says, I don't want my kid to do well. And so the question is not the want. The question is the sort of know how to create the structure or the sort of home environment that allows for that to happen.
Dr. Comer?
I simply agree with that, but would again emphasize that it is the quality of the interaction, parent-child, non-punitive promotion and support for development that makes a difference.
All right.
Joel Greenberg from Philadelphia. I have a question for Michelle. That in Philadelphia we have 50,000 kids on waiting lists for charter schools, and in terms of a silver bullet, in terms of solving an urgent problem, to me that's a problem, a political problem, because the political mechanism and the powers that be refuse to allow parents to have choice, as we've all seen in saving the children, Waiting for Superman. So the problem really is not necessarily that there aren't solutions. There are solutions, but the politicians who are in a situation where they do not want to rock the boat and where they are taking tremendous donations from the teachers union to keep the status quo and prohibit competition from affecting their monopoly. So if you could address that, Michelle, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. So I do think that it is a significant problem that we have a special interest group in this country, namely the teachers' unions, who have a tremendous amount of influence. I don't think that in and of itself is a problem. They should be doing that. They should be advocating on behalf of their members. I think the real problem is that there is no organized national interest group with the same kind of heft as the union that's advocating on behalf of children. And so we need balance in the equation. And I think that's incredibly important. I will also say, though, that I am a huge proponent of effective charter schools. You won't get a bigger one than me. But at the same time, the charter school movement as a whole has not done itself right in this argument either, in this debate either, because there are lots of really ineffective charter schools out there. And the whole premise behind charter schools was increased authority and autonomy for increased accountability. And for a charter school, if you're not effective, we're supposed to close you down. We have not been nearly as aggressive about ensuring that we are closing the poor performers down. And so that what happens is that the incredible performance of the most highly effective charter schools are masked by the low performance of the worst ones, and until the charter sector takes a much stronger stand and pivots away from quantity and more towards quality, I don't know that the problem is going to be solved in the long run.
Thank you. I'm going to do something that I really don't like doing, but because of the time involved, I'm going to take all 3 of those questions, hopefully brief ones, and then we'll see who answers. So if you don't mind stating your question, then the next person here states yours, and then you state yours, and then we'll try and get to the answers.
I just want to say that thank you for a wonderful panel. The direness of the problem of educating is even greater because I sense over the past 30 years that there might be forces at work who would like us to become a consumerocracy and an ignorocracy instead of the democracy, which I think was the original intention of the United States, and we all have to pick up our voices and follow the leadership in that direction.
But you didn't tell us who you are.
I'm Jerry Yukovich, a doctor on the island here.
Thank you, Jerry.
Welcome.
I knew who you were, but I wanted everybody. All right, Matt.
My name is Diane Brinkley. I taught for 29 years in Newark, and we were able to incorporate Dr. Comer's methods in our school. And we were very successful, so successful that they shut us down. And I just wanted people to really do themselves a favor and do the research on his methods, because they do work. And I don't know if you heard him say that he started with a school, and after 3 years, the teachers were excited. And so you're talking about teacher accountability. Teachers become accountable when they're successful with students and when they see methods that really work.
Thank
My name is John Michael Caldero, a recently retired public educator of 35 years. I would like to follow up a little bit on the man in front of me. And what I see as a big concern is the goal of education. We have thousands of school districts, 50 states, all with their own standards. And we all have this nebulous view. Do we want good citizens? Do we want workers? Do we want kids to take tests? One of the difficulties that we face as educators is, what are we supposed to be teaching towards? And I'd like to get some comments on that.
Thank you. Now, to ask you to address that question, but as you do, refer back to something that Angel said earlier, because I think it goes to the issue of why all of us, black, white, brown, whatever, need to be invested in this issue. We've talked about the fact that the disproportionate pain is being borne by young black and Hispanics, but what is at stake for all of us as you answer that question, Angel? And we, again, Skip is giving me the eye here, so we got to make this brief.
Well, I guess very briefly, I think what's at stake for all of us is, could you imagine a world in which half of the U.S. population had 8th grade skill set? Just imagine that scenario. So I'll stop there in the interest of time.
Okay, quickly, I just want to reiterate what Larry Bobo said, which is, I don't think there's ever been a bigger disconnect between public policy and what people on this panel have been saying here. They're like on totally different planes. One of the questioners over here said, what is it we need to do to get kids to love school? I would say, let's have the arts in every school. Let's have stringed orchestras. Let's have choruses. I mean, this is what kids love, and when the budget gets cut, the first thing that goes is the things that kids love to do.
Diane, what's at stake?
What's at stake? What's at stake is the future of our nation. And I would make it even more important by saying, what's at stake is the future of public education. I don't think we can continue with the privatization movement and see our country get better. What we'll see is a dual system recreated between the private and the public schools.
Thank you. Jim, what's
just
at
one
stake?
last point.
Sure.
What's the purpose of education? Purpose of education, Massachusetts. It's about developing citizens to sustain our democracy into the future. Every single person is a citizen. Every single person has to be part of keeping this society vibrant. We cannot toss away any part of our population.
Dr. Comer?
On the schools that work point, I agree with that, and I've always thought of it as preparing children so that they can be successful in school and in life, so that they can work, be successful family members, and successful citizens. And with that, you can create a society that is vital and can sustain itself, and that is what the schools ought to be doing. But we don't have to focus on things like choice, as far as I'm concerned, or innovation, or new, finding something out. They're the basics. There is, every child needs to have adults around him or her that will help them grow so that they can do all of the things that we're talking about. And that has to start at home first, and in school second, and in all the experiences that the child has. That's why the arts and so on are important in school, not in and of themselves, but because they support the development of children. And that's where we have to go, I think.
Michelle? What's at stake?
So I'm gonna do two things at once. I'm gonna try to answer the question, and I'm gonna push back a little bit on Dr. Bobo, but don't worry, because lots of the people that I'm closest with, I started out in a fight with. So, one of the things that you said when you were summing up the panels was you said, and so those people who are saying that, teachers solve poverty, overcome poverty, are misguided. I just want to be clear, that's not what I said. And not only that, I don't know anybody who says that. What my point was is that we have children in school for 6.5 hours every day, 180 days a year. And in that time period, we have to believe that there is a tremendous amount that we can do to better their station in life. Right now, if you are a child born in poverty in this country, your likelihood of graduating from college is 10%. That is the most un-American thing I can imagine. The reason why we have public schools is so that every single child, regardless of whether you're black or white, rich or poor, so that every child can have an equal chance in life. That's part of the reason why we have schools. But to make statements like that, what I think it does is it creates a boogeyman, and it polarizes the debate to these extremes where actually nobody is standing. Nobody's saying teachers solve poverty. That's not what anyone's saying. So I feel like we have to get more into the nuances of what this discussion was about, and the understanding that, yes, there are tremendous disadvantages, there are tremendous challenges, but in the confines of the school, in the confines of the school day and the school year, what is it that we should aspire to do? And how is it that we should be setting these systems up to give our children the best chance in life?
Thank you.
Well, I'll push back just a little. And I deliberately did not attribute it to you because I did hear you, and I didn't say you said that. So let's be clear on the record.
No, I'm saying no, but I don't know anybody who's saying that.
Okay.
My point is that is in effect how policy is working. Not that that's what anyone's advocating, but because our emphasis has been on accountability, testing, and then firing and sanctioning, that's in effect what it is. Even if that's not how anybody describes it, that is in effect what it becomes. And that's disappointing and tragic, because we are in effect asking teachers to solve poverty. That's not the official rhetoric. That's not how anyone rationalizes it, but unfortunately, that is what it devolves into.
And I'm going to have the last word. And I wish we could continue, because as you've seen from this audience's reaction, this has been a great panel. Those of you who know me know that I'm the daughter and the granddaughter of preachers. And if you were here this time last year, you know I ended with quoting one of the preachers who is now late, gone from us, Dr. Gomes from Harvard. And this past 2 Sundays ago, I was listening to the president of Morehouse College at a wonderful sermon. Those were my 2 for the year, well, the 1 for the year. But I want to repeat what I said last year from Dr. Gomes, but first from Dr. Richardson. And that is, it's a long story, but I'll make it short because I'll be pithy and brief as well. He recommended that everybody read Frankenstein. He said, now, you may not be popular at the Inkwell if you take the book there, but there's a lesson in it. When Frankenstein created the monster, eventually it became a monster and became malicious. And Dr. Frankenstein said to the monster, "Why are you so malicious?" And the monster answered, "I am malicious because I'm miserable." We cannot afford to have a nation of children who continue to fall farther and farther behind and become more and more miserable because they don't have the things that other children in the society have. So Frankenstein. We move from Frankenstein to Dr. Gomes, who I hope is here with us in spirit. And this is what I left you with this time last year, and I'm going to leave it this year, and if I get invited back, I might do it next year. The we goes here. Do what you can with what you have where you are. Thank you. And as you go to your various destinations, we're going to bring back Joshua Bennett, who's going to send you on your way. You can start to move out, but the brother is going to entertain you with his wonderful poetry as you leave. Come on up, Joshua, and they'll be quiet.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. You were way amazing.
Well, actually, okay, that's kind of. I guess I'll perform for like you guys right here then. Just as we close out. Actually, is it cool if everybody just sort of like gives me your attention for just like 3 minutes? Is that fine? Thank you guys. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because there's just one thing I really wanted to touch on really quick. So this last piece I'm going to do for you guys is about Stevie Wonder. And part of what I really took away from the panel that really touched my heart and something I felt like was hinted at but not really touched upon strongly was kids with disabilities, and that there's this whole population of people in the United States that are caught in the education gap in a way that we don't even really have a proper understanding of. And this last piece was inspired by Stevie Wonder, and about this last year I spent in England being part of a ministry where we went every single week and we would play with kids with disabilities just in an attempt to like just show them God's love and remind them, like as part of what Diane was talking about, that each of them are beautiful and just need to be cared for. So this piece is an open letter to Stevie Wonder, and I hope you guys just enjoy it and rock with me as we go. Dear Stevie, you are the only musician that my father ever talks about. Tells me that back when he fought in Vietnam, he would listen to your song For Once in My Life on repeat. Says that against the backdrop of all that destruction, it reminded him of how much he loved being alive. The first time I saw you live, my veins turned to jumper cables. The air was so thick with laughter that I could barely move. A woman seated just one row in front of me, draped in a whole different genre of beautiful and dancing, like her entire body was a playground, perfectly designed for her bones to double dutch in. It was that sort of night. Our bodies came unhinged, split like the kiss of axe blade and timber the moment your fingertips glided across that triton. The keys turned to keys, and suddenly the stadium was no stadium at all, but a dance hall in 1970s Georgia. You, once again a 13-year-old boy, harmonica blooming from your lips, Jim Crow weeping at the back of the venue, unable to breathe once you let all that flame in your throat go free. Every time you sing the word sunshine, I rethink what it means to see. Figure, it must be something even more grand than the split-second waltz between iris and light that so many of us take for granted. When I was 9, you told me that rainbows were ribbons in the sky, which led me to believe that the heavens must be a gift, the sunrise, just a billion birthday candles set to blaze whenever the sun was born anew from the womb of the sea. You can't just say things like that to kids. It makes them dream. Carves their world into a canvas where every shade of human is acceptable, where my little brother, diagnosed with autism at age 3, can sit at a drum set and coax the thunder from its belly until it speaks twice as loudly as all those voices that told us to focus on what he could not do, where every other week I can sit in a classroom an hour outside of London and be reminded by a group of teenagers with disabilities that they are made in God's image too, that our bodies are not chained to what this world says about how we should work. I have always been told that the eyes are the windows to the soul, but maybe your soul is a window for our eyes. Every song, like a beautiful mirror, perfectly placed at the corners of your mind. The one thing I know for sure about the wedding that I hope to have someday is that I want your music to be playing the moment I see my bride. Her dress billowing behind her like a waterfall made of silk, the chorus, isn't she lovely, filling the sanctuary like a gentle mist. My father, seated in the front row, reciting every word from memory and smiling the way a man only can when he has seen death and come away dancing. Thank you for the hits, my friend, for the way you have used your gift. I lift a glass to your courage, and I offer you this, a handwritten letter from the heart, a song in the key